Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Lancaster is on the roll. There it is, folks. And piloting the plane this afternoon is Don Schofield, and over in the right-hand seat is Andy Dobson. They switch back and forth. Actually, they fight over the left seat. But Don won out today, so he's in the left seat, Andy's in the right. Flight engineers on board today, Craig Brookhouse and Randy Strawn.
There you see the CT-155 Hawk trainer jet. Now you might be wondering why the Hawk is taking off. Well, we're setting up a little bit of a heritage flight here because the Hawk is from 419 Squadron. And in a moment we'll tell you a little bit more about the Lancaster, but just to set it up here, they also served in 419 Squadron as well, so you have a little comparison of the old and the new.
As he left the assembly line in July of 1945, it was placed in storage at the end of the war and later returned to service by the RCAF as a maritime patrol aircraft at 405 Squadron based at Greenwood, Nova Scotia.
Ladies and gentlemen, off to the east. Coming in just to the left of Mount Baker there, you will see the Hawk and the Lancaster, and we're just going to be quiet so that you can hear this beautiful sound.
Salute to all the folks, both past and present, of 419 Squadron. Okay, folks, get your cameras ready because here comes the Lancaster and the Hawk from the right or to the west. Restoration project began, and early in the restoration process, a decision was made to repaint the Canadian Warplane Heritage Lancaster, and the markings of the Canadian War Lancaster kept it by Flying Officer Art DeBring of 419 Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Force. FM 213 took to the air again in September of 1988.
The CWH Lancaster, shown as KB-726 Victor Romeo Alpha, which took part on a bombing mission on the 13th of June of 1944. KB-726 was a Canadian-built Lancaster that was involved with the raid detailed to bomb the French railway marshalling yards in Cambrai. At the time, Allied forces were establishing a beachhead in Normandy after the D-Day landings. KB-726 was on its way to intervene with German efforts to counter the Allied invasion. Over France and prior to reaching the target, KB-726 was attacked by a German Ju-88 night fighter, and several cannon shells struck that aircraft. The result was a fire on one wing and in the rear of the fuselage.
Here he comes again on a high-speed pass from the left.
Because the aircraft had yet to reach its target, it had a full bomb load on board and plenty of fuel to ensure the return trip to England. Flying Officer DeBrent made the decision that the crew should abandon the aircraft. Pilot Officer Andrew Minarski, the mid-upper gunner, made his way back to the rear exit area aft. The exit was aflame with a hydraulic fluid fire. Andrew Minarski saw his fellow crew member, Pat Brophy, was trapped in the rear turret, and he made his way aft through the fire to try and save his comrade. As it turned out, the rear turret of the Lancaster was jammed as a result of the hydraulic failure. Backup device to rotate the turret had also failed. Pat Brophy was doomed to die in a horrible crash. Andrew Minarski tried in vain to free his friend. Fortunately, he couldn't. Pat Brophy indicated to his friend to save himself. At that point in time, much of Andrew Minarski's flying clothes was on fire as a result of the hydraulic fluid soaking his gear. Prior to bailing out from the rear exit of the Lancaster, Andrew Minarski stood to attention and saluted his comrade. He then exited the burning Lancaster and made a heavy parachute landing in France. Shortly thereafter, succumbed to his severe burns.
And how do we know all this? That's the interesting part of the story. The rest of the crew made it out of the aircraft except for Pat Brophy, who rode the aircraft down to a crash landing in France. Miraculously, upon impact, Brophy was ejected clear of the Lancaster, and he and 3 of his fellow crew members managed to evade German capture. Bay doors open. Upon their repatriation to England, the crew members related the story of Andrew Minarski's heroism. Had Andrew Minarski just bailed out without trying to save his fellow crewmates, he very likely would have survived. As a result of these facts becoming known, the Governor-General of Canada presented Andrew Minarski's mother with his posthumous Victoria Cross at a ceremony in Winnipeg in 1946. Today, the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum is proud to remember the bravery of Pilot Officer Andrew Charles Minarski, VC, and countless other Canadians who have made the supreme sacrifice in the service of Canada.
All right, folks, get your cameras ready. We have the Lancaster lining up, and it looks like the bomb bay doors are open again. From the left,